Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We are just 2 days away now from the annual South Carolina Clemson football game, a game that was taken from us last year due to COVID. First time being played in over 720 days. So who better to have on with us this morning than former Gamecock quarterback Steve Taneyhill. Steve, thank you for taking some time and joining us.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, man. No problem. Anytime. My phone usually rings a lot this week.
I wonder why. I mean, it is crazy. You think back and look, I mean, you played 3 more years after that 92 season. But how much do you still get remembered to this day because of what happened during that 92 season against Clemson?
Well, I think it had a lot to do with that whole season because, I didn't start till halfway through it. And then, we kind of put the exclamation point on, ending up 5-1 with that win at Clemson. And, Clemson didn't go to a bowl game that year. So it wasn't like they were, the greatest team in the world. But I guess Carolina hadn't beat them in a few years. And, we had been playing so well. And then to beat them up there. And, the fans charged the field. I was up in the air there for a little while on someone's shoulders, fan's shoulder. It was kind of scary at the time. It was great. Trust me. It was, obviously one of my best memories, but what a fun game. And no one really remembers, the next year I threw like 4 picks and we got beat at home against Clemson, but no one ever calls and says, hey, do you remember? No, people don't remember that. It's I had a lot to do with that picture too. That picture with my hands up is kind of, it's been, I guess, in the state paper every year, probably since it happened a long time ago, but I enjoyed a week. I never really left the state, so I've always been around, the rivalry, and it's something, man. We don't have any pro teams here, Mike. So, I know the Panthers are close, but this is everybody. It doesn't really matter where you went to school. If you didn't go to South Carolina or Clemson, and you're just a transplant, you got to pick one or the other. And so it's a fun week, and we missed out on it last year, and I'm happy to have it back. I can't wait to be there on Saturday.
And I think you couldn't have said it any better. As someone that grew up in Massachusetts, it's the complete opposite, right? Just got pro teams galore, whether it be the Patriots, Red Sox, Celtics, Bruins. You come down here, you have nothing. You're 90 minutes away from the Panthers, and shoot, for what? It took until 95, 96 for the Panthers to even come around in this area. So I say all that, Steve. You think about this game in particular, right? You think about the Connor Shaws of the world. You think about just the guys that have made their print on this game in particular. Not saying that their careers weren't good. They're not saying that your career wasn't good outside of the Clemson game. But how big can this game be for someone like a guy like Jason Brown, for example, right? In terms of being able to stick around, in terms of just how people remember you in your career because of what you did against Clemson.
Oh, I definitely think that it's one of those games where you can become a household name for a long time based on how you play. At Clemson, they have the catch up there from, all the way back, in the 70s or whenever that was. And then we have the fight or the brawl, that's still, just people remember this game. And I think Jason Brown, to beat Auburn, Florida, and maybe Clemson, he's headed towards, my freshman year when we beat Mississippi State, Tennessee, and then Clemson. So, but I'm pulling for him, man. And he transferred. Here's the thing. So he was at St. Francis College in Pennsylvania, which the Loretto, the town that it's in, is about 30 minutes from my house. Where I grew up, and St. Francis College is where we played all like the playoff basketball games. So when I saw he was from St. Francis, man, I know exactly where that is, and number 13 as well. They came together, but I'm happy for him, man. Anytime you're the third stringer going into the year, you don't really think you're going to play, and for him to come through here and play as well as I think he has at times. I think that's that speaks volumes about who he is. Also, I'm reading today somewhere that they say he's the last guy in there watching film, which is totally different than I was. I was the first guy out of there. But I think that's awesome, man. If he's putting in the time, working on his craft and trying to get better. I'm happy for the kid, and he's really made some big time plays here the last few weeks.
Yeah, Senator Eric Douglas on Wednesday during media availability mentioned that he's usually out of the building around 10 o'clock. He's one of the last players out. Shane Beamer even mentioned throughout the course of the season, even when he was the third string quarterback, he was always one of the last people to leave the building, always watching film. So it's a testament of him in his commitment, but is just being ready for the moment. Steve, you look back to that iconic picture that you mentioned, and I remember watching an interview maybe a couple days ago of people having tattoos of that moment, or just where it's been in bars and different places. In that moment, was it one of those like blackout moments, like you don't even necessarily know what was going on, like you know about athletes talking about like you're in the zone, you don't even know what happened, you have to go back and watch film on it. If you recall, or even if you can recall, what was going through your mind in the infamous, pretending to sign your name on the Tiger Paw? What was going on through your mind? I'm guessing that wasn't premeditated, or was it?
No, it wasn't premeditated. The only thing we had really talked about that year was, what we were going to do when we got in the end zone. I remember, Brandon Bennett and Toby Cates and we always used to have walkthroughs on Friday. And we used to talk about, hey, if I score, I'm going to do this. Back then, you were allowed to celebrate a little bit more. But actually what happened on that play is we were really just trying to get first downs, run out the clock. We were going to win 17-13 if we did that. And, Brandon broke like a 40-yard run. And I'm kind of just trotting down the field. And the play's kind of ended. And I just look down, I'm right in the middle of the Tiger Paw. So I bend down, pretend to write my name, and then put my hands up. And, here we are, about 30 years later, and it's, still a big time picture in the rivalry. So it wasn't premeditated. I didn't even, when I saw the picture the next day in the paper, I didn't even remember doing it really. It is definitely, especially at the quarterback position, you don't hear anything. You don't hear the fans cheering. You don't hear anything. So I didn't really remember actually doing it until you go back and watch the film and see kind of what happened. I was like, oh yeah, that was on Brandon's long run. So it's funny how those things happen, and just in that moment and being up there and kind of I figured once Brandon broke that, we ended up scoring on that drive, but we were really just trying to run out the clock. And at that point, you kind of know it's over. And it's just a little celebration before the real celebration. But when the fans came on the field, Mike, it if you've never been involved in something like that, which I hadn't, it's kind of scary. All of a sudden, that horn, the buzzer goes, and you turn around and it's just a mob scene. You see it these days, and to be like in the middle of it all, it's a strange feeling that you really have no control over, like, besides what am I going to do? How do I get out of this?
One thing I thought was interesting, and I don't know if this has changed since then. We know, or maybe some people don't know, you are the owner of Group Therapy, which maybe people didn't know this, the oldest bar or restaurant in 5 Points. So that's just tremendous that a former Gamecock owns that and has kept that legacy going. But I believe outside of maybe a picture in the bar, you don't personally have that photo framed at your house, or has that changed since that interview you did a couple of years ago?
No, I don't. I have behind me, I have an office here at our house, and I just started to put stuff in here and try to make this my office, because I'm in Spartanburg. My house is in Spartanburg, and obviously, the bar's in Columbia. So I do have a very small one. But it just went in here. But the only one I gave the one that I was given, I got it blown up and gave it to my parents. So it's at my parents' house. But I did find a little one just to put in this office. But I saw it, once every year in the paper this week. So I just never really had it and didn't really have anywhere to put it. I don't know that there is one at Group Therapy. One thing about having a place in 5 Points is sometimes if you don't have it drilled into the wall, it might get gone. So there's a few things that, I just couldn't put in group, but I am proud to be an owner down there. We bought it 5 years ago, and I love 5 Points, and obviously, I'm a South Carolina guy, and so it is pretty cool to say, man, I own a bar, slash restaurant, whatever we got to say, in the town that I went to college and played football, and my name's inside that stadium as a record breaker.
On top of that, too, speaking about another 5 Points bar, a guy that I know you're good friends with, mutual friend of mine, Brian Glenn over at Village Idiot, to the oldest bar. So he's the second oldest now that yesterday's no longer exist. And actually, Steve was out there with me during trivia night, one of the first nights that Village Idiot reopened after COVID, and we won it. So
we won trivia that night. I had to leave before we actually got the prize. So I think you guys still owe me whatever they gave us. If they gave us free pizza and a pitcher or something, I think I'm still owed that.
Absolutely, we'll make that happen.
Yeah, when the day I bought group, Brian came down there that night, and we talked a long time. And he's definitely one of those good guys and good friend of mine, especially down there. And he's from up north too, so we kind of just come down here, us guys, and we never leave once you get with the weather and the school, and it's just Columbia is just a great place, and so is university.
It's a great place, and I'll tell you what, the atmosphere on Saturday, we found out on Wednesday afternoon that the stadium is officially sold out. That doesn't mean, though, the secondary market, whether it be Ticketmaster, StubHub. So if you're trying to still get a ticket, you can still get one. But from a university standpoint, all the tickets they have, they're sold out. That place is going to be rocking. And Steve, I know you have a very special honor that's going to be taking place before that game.
Yeah, they called and asked if I'd be the celebrity starter. And I did it before, and I can't remember the year, but we played Clemson and we beat them that night. And so they asked me to do it again, and I'm going to be there anyway. So I think I'm 8-1 or 7-1 on the sidelines since I got done playing, and I never really stood on the sidelines till Coach Spurrier got there, and he asked me to come back all the time. And my only loss is to Missouri a few years ago, but I think I'm like 2 or 3-0 in Clemson games. So obviously they probably want me to stand on the sidelines and keep that streak going. And but it is fun, just being out on the field again. Whoa. What happened?
You're good.
Oh, my screen's going in and out. You good?
Yeah.
All right, my screen was going in and out. But just being on the field, having an opportunity to stand at, on the field in Williams-Brice Stadium with a packed house, and it will be crazy. I remember I was there. When we beat them for the 5th time in a row, and I swear to you, I turned around and it looked like the press box, and that whole top section was moving. And I expect that same crowd on Saturday. The way we've won lately, especially at home, and a night game in Williams-Brice is special. And I think that our guys have seen a little bit of it with the Florida game in Auburn, but it's going to be chaos inside on Saturday, especially if we get off to a good start. I think that's one of the most important parts of the game is getting off to a good start, because the crowd will stay in it. And, for a lot of people, it's a long day of tailgate. So you gotta keep them enthused in there, if you know what I'm talking about, and keep that momentum going. If you don't do much, they can get a little tired and silent. So we need to keep it rolling and start off on a good note. But I am proud to say I'm going to be there, and anytime the university asks, I do the best I can to help them out. And again, like I said, standing out there with a packed house, you almost get a lot of thoughts go through your head about 20 some years ago when I played, but it's fun. And to see that crowd, man, what those students do now at the towels is just unbelievable, and the whole stadium for that matter. But those students, Man, that down there in that end zone is crazy, man.
The cockpit. And speaking about the cockpit, perhaps a guy that I know you know very well. He actually has you in his song, and we just had him on the show just the other day. Patrick Davis is going to be at the Senate doing his 5th annual Toys for Tot concert. To be part of that song, to be part of Gamecock history in so many ways, what does it mean knowing especially this week, so many people remember that moment, and for you to still be a part of so many people's Thanksgiving memories? I mean, what does that mean as someone that hasn't put on the pads in nearly 30 years?
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I met Patrick 10 or 15 years ago, and I've sang that song on him on stage about 4 times. I think the last time was at Vanderbilt a couple of years ago, and we played up there in Nashville the night before. So Patrick's a friend of mine, and I'll be there Friday. But what a cool song. We played that song. I got married 2 years ago, and I had one of our friends sang that song at like karaoke at the party afterwards. So it's pretty cool. But he's got a new rendition where he puts Coach Beamer in there, but it'd be really cool if they played that when I was standing out there, especially the little part that has me in it. But again, I've had so much fun, being on stage with Patrick and enjoying that song, and really appreciate him, throwing my name in there. But like you said, it is something almost 30 years later. And, this week, like I said, my phone rings. The last few days it's rang a lot about tickets. And, I hate to tell you, but I'm sorry. I told him you could come by the tailgate and hang out. But, and after we win, one of our friends said, "Are you buying drinks at group therapy?" And I talked to Darius Rucker last week, and he said, if we win this week, we taking his bus to group. So I'm hoping he can help with some of that cost if we win, and I got to buy the whole bar drinks the rest of the night. It's going to be a rough one on me.
Steve, you're freezing up on us. So just in case the computer might shut down on that, and we just want to say thank you for taking the time to join us today. Big one Saturday night under the lights, USC taking on Clemson for the first time in over 700 days. And that man right there, Steve Taneyhill, will be leading the charge of the Gamecock chant prior to the game. Steve, appreciate you taking the time.
All right, man. Appreciate it. I'll see you Friday or Saturday, bud.